Welcome back to The Line. The number of medical marijuana card holders has grown in Santa Fe County, with an increase of nearly 43% from January 2017 to January 2018. That's amazing. According to an article in the Santa Fe New Mexican, we got that information, about 1 in 10 of the state's nearly 48,000 medical marijuana card holders live in Santa Fe County, and that's the second highest number in the state, next to right here in Bernalillo County. And Serge, one of the dispensary managers interviewed in a very interesting article, said he believed the rise in numbers and population, you know, the benefits of medical marijuana are the education's being more understood. And maybe anecdotally, when you see the ages of some of the folks that are going in for their cards, 75 years old, 80 years old, these are not folks inclined to be recreational smokers, and they've sort of exhausted every other avenue out there for insomnia and all other things. What's that say about where marijuana stands right here in New Mexico?
Oh, I mean, I think it's a good sign that the, knee-jerk demonization is receding somewhat, and that we're starting to look at it through the actual lens of, empirical evidence and understanding what it means and what it does not mean, right? It does not mean reefer madness. It means a different tool in our toolkit to alleviate some of these chronic problems and possibly to jump out in front of some of the other problems that are facing the state if we would look further at some of the evidence, for example, around, opioid addiction and the way marijuana, there's a correlation between states that have made medical marijuana more accessible and a reduction in overdoses and addiction, opioid-based addictions.
That's right. Well, not according to our U.S. Attorney General, it's not, but we'll get to that in a second, that's for sure. Andy, interestingly, you can't help but, again, anecdotally, if you've got a woman being quoted saying, I've suffered with insomnia for 40 years, and this is the first thing that's allowed me to get a full night's sleep in my life. Who could be opposed to that? But many people still are. It's I appreciate your point about, Serge's point about drop of stigma, but it's not all the way gone, is it? It's a difficulty.
No, especially right now with the Department of Health and our governor. They both kind of really want to pump the brakes on expanding things there. So our governor has finally come around and said, I'm okay with this program. I think she started out saying she was going to try to limit it, and then she kind of hands off a little bit. Now she's okay with it, so it seems. But she was very adamant that opioid addiction and some of these other things that should not be expanded to just kind of sit there. And we're going to probably see, depending on who takes office next year, some changes too.
That's a good point. So if I should be clear here, insomnia is not one of the 21
it is not.
Listed, even though it was folks who quoted in the articles using it for insomnia, so don't get any ideas out there, folks. I'm wondering your thoughts about, let's pull in, of course, recreational marijuana, and Andy mentions there's a new regime coming in. There may be some changes on that. The public has spoken. More than half the states in the country have medical marijuana at this point.
And a number have recreational as well, including our neighbor to the north, Colorado.
And Nevada.
Nevada as well, that's right. I think one of the things that may not be as much of an issue for other states, but is certainly an issue here, is the impact of the federal prohibition. So if you are working for the federal government or a federal contractor, you probably aren't able to take advantage of the medical marijuana laws here in New Mexico. I don't think that necessarily slows our move toward increasing the number of medical conditions that can be treated with medical marijuana, or even necessarily slowing our move toward recreational marijuana. But what it does mean is that this state is one of the places where I think the legal challenges will come to the federal law. You have a federal employee who says, this is really medically necessary. The courts are probably where they're going to need to take that.
Exactly right. $3 million was taken in by the state from licensure fees for medical marijuana people. One can only imagine casting out when recreational, if it does come, the windfall that would come to New Mexico. And you hear this argument a lot, that it's good for the state coffers. Is that enough of an argument, do you think, at this point, or is it going to have to be something else down the road?
I mean, I think it's a combination. Definitely the money is attractive. But, ultimately there's a really solid case for health, with medical marijuana. So, in fact, I had Rachel Spiegel, who heads up the Verdes Foundation, on my show. And we talked in depth, and she's a registered nurse by training. And she talked about how, it's really helped a lot of people take take control of their health.
Right.
And so I think there's a really strong health argument to this. I do think that the federal issue or the federal legal, situation is an issue because we have so many. We rely so heavily on the federal government here. We have a lot of federal employees
Right.
that get into trouble if they take advantage of that.
That's right.
So I think there are a lot of issues. I think that with the next governor, we'll definitely be taking this back up.
Yeah.
My sense is that New Mexico sees a financial windfall until Arizona and Texas do it too. Do you know what I mean? I think
Yes, I do.
Colorado,
Yep.
Nevada are benefiting financially because, to a certain extent, not exclusively, because of pot tourism.
Right.
And New Mexico probably has a relatively small window. But beyond that, so let's say that all states, so you can always buy within your own state. At that point, it's money moving from one expense to another expense. So, a person was, I'm spending my money on medical marijuana or recreational marijuana and not on alcohol or not on pharmaceutical, prescription pharmaceuticals, et cetera. I'm reminded a little bit of some of the research that's gone into casinos here in New Mexico and the idea that it seems like casinos are generating these windfalls for the state, but it may just be a kind of tax on New Mexico residents who are the ones going to the casinos.
right. That's
so I think we need to be aware that this is a decision that can't just be made on money. To Giovanna's point, it's also about health, and it's also about our criminal justice system.
That's right.
I mean, the bill that Cory Booker has sponsored in D.C. that Senator Gillibrand has just signed on as a co-sponsor of would wipe out the criminal convictions of people who had been convicted for pot offenses, marijuana offenses. And that could be really transformative. So that, no longer incarcerating, no longer really damaging people's lives and their livelihoods going forward. That could be pretty transformative in a state like New Mexico.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's particularly for black and brown people. Let's go straight at it. That's a big issue.
It's a big
Serge.
social justice issue,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it dovetails off what happened in San Francisco recently, where that exact thing just happened, where the mayor was and others were able to wipe off the books folks that have been convicted for small amounts of marijuana in their past, so they can move on with their lives.
Yep.
You see what I mean? So your sense of it as a lawyer, what are some of the pitfalls coming up that you anticipate trying to get to?
Well, I mean, as I was saying, there's a huge clash, right, between states and federal, especially the current administration, which manifests itself in a lot of different ways, right? Clashes between the states and the federal government. I recently learned that lawyers in New Mexico aren't allowed to provide assistance to medical marijuana facilities because
No kidding.
of concerns about because of clashes with federal law and putting lawyers in that. Well, there's an advisory opinion suggesting that it's inappropriate for lawyers. So all sorts of unforeseen little glitches that they're going to have to be addressed. And what do you do, right, going forward? We've seen young men of color, incarcerated or have criminal convictions and therefore ineligible for lots and lots of different jobs and subsidies and other sorts of programs. How do we go back and rectify that? San Francisco has been proactive in saying, we're just going to do this.
Right.
But other states have said, well, if you come to us, we'll try to go through the process
Right.
and put the onus on, right? Will we approach that in a way that puts meaning to what we're saying? Like, this is not a big deal and we're going to go back and erase this. Or, those of you who have the resources, the rich folks from Santa Fe who know what to do to go back and get that indiscretion from their past, removed, whereas the young, poor communities of color are going to have less access. These are big issues, and I think, while I would love to wave a wand and say it all goes away, and we expunge it from everyone's record, it's still going to be there for quite a while, and we're going to have to deal with that.
That's right. Interesting point there. And that's all the time we have.